Hey,
Hello.
you playing
Hi,
that? Do a big reveal.
I'm here.
Okay, you can't see anyone, Tiff. There you go.
Yeah, I want to see everybody. Hi, everyone. Hello. I'm Tiff.
I say hi.
I'm talking to you from Long Beach, California. This is our backyard right here. And so if you ever want to visit, like Tyler and Joe have, Joe's practically lived here. He's the brother I never wanted. I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding. No, he's been really cool. The first time I ever met Joe was at my mom's wedding. So there was like a lot of busyness and craziness around us, and so we got through this wedding, and he was in the wedding party. So I thought that was pretty impressive. And my mom had told me a lot about him before I came back from school to be a part of the wedding. And so after the wedding, Joe kept us up all night long, and he was grilling me, asking me all these questions about Shackley, and all of the doubts and the fears that he had. He really put them on the forefront and allowed me to kind of guide him through this process. And I'm really lucky to have met him. I'm kind of hard on him sometimes, but not as hard as my mom is on him. It's kind of that Asian tough love kind of thing that we got going on. But I feel very privileged because Joe has a great work ethic, and I think he really inspires a lot of me, but also a lot of my team to continue to work towards their goals, whatever those goals are. So thank you for having me today, Joe. I really appreciate being here.
Of course.
I want to ask you guys, who here is completely new? Like, has never had any exposure to Shackley at all? You can raise your hand. Okay. Okay, 2 people. All right, cool. Welcome. Thank you for taking your time to be with us today. We get to share with you a little bit about my story, but I want to really stress that my story is just one out of millions of people in Shackley or who have been affected by Shackley. So I hope that this will help answer some questions that you have, and we can get started. So at the end too, I want to open up after we've heard all the things that we have to say this morning. If you guys have questions, we can open up questions like 5-10 minutes at the end, and I can help answer or address any concerns or questions that you have. How does that sound?
Good.
All right. Can we go to the next slide, Joe?
Yeah.
Okay, so who here is interested in better health? Now I want to go back. Yeah. Who's here because they're interested in better health? Yeah, only one of you? What are you doing there?
Raise your hand. Right?
If you're not, you might be sitting in the wrong meeting. I don't know. But health was not a primary concern for me when I got started. And I want to be very brutally honest with you because I was young, and I thought young people, we have plenty of years to be sick. But that sort of mindset that I had was a mindset that came from the medical field, kind of saying if you got sick, then you should treat yourself, then you should go to the doctor. And I think doctors are great. I think that they have a purpose, but I was never taught about prevention. And so when I was introduced to Shackley by my mom, I thought, man, this is for old people. Like, I don't need this. Right? And so the market I didn't see was for me. I didn't see it could work for myself. But the reason why I started my Shackley business about 5 years ago was because I needed money to pay for college. So I'm going to back up a little bit and tell you a little bit about my background. My mom was a single mom. She raised me her whole life on her own, and she did really well. She was always an independent contractor of some sort. She never worked for anybody, never had a job, but she was able to provide in a really big way. So we've lived in, Malibu and amongst some of the wealthiest people in the world. And we've lived in the ghetto of Long Beach. And there are lots of, that's a stark contrast because, in having businesses and along with being on your own, I mean, just all these factors, my mom had made it and lost it so many times in our life. And so we took that journey together. But in retrospect, looking back on it, I realized that the common factor in her losing everything, from us moving from a big home to, being homeless and living in a 1-bedroom in someone else's home that we couldn't really even afford to pay $600 rent, the reasons were always because of poor health. That, when we were living in Malibu, my mom got into a car accident on PCH, totaled the car, totaled her body, and was disabled for 2 years. She had worked for an insurance company who didn't pay out, and we got into a major lawsuit with them. We had medical bills all the way up to the ceiling. And so from making, 6-7 figures to really losing that all overnight because what was promised was not delivered, was a huge lesson for us. But we didn't learn because we were searching for other ways to do things, and it just didn't work. And she started a retail business on Hollywood Boulevard because she didn't want to be in a real estate and insurance anymore, because she couldn't drive around. She was scared of her own shadow. And so when she had a retail business, her godfather had embezzled loads and loads of money from her as the economy was tanking. So I want you to do me a favor. I want you to picture yourself as a senior in high school, and you think everything is going fine. You're preparing to go to college or whatever that next step is for you if it's not college. And the world tells you that you have the whole world in front of you, right? You're like, wow, like this is going to be amazing. I'm going to graduate high school. It's going to be so much fun. I'm going to go to college. I'm going to start working on my future. And imagine the worst possible thing that can happen as you're making that transition into young adulthood, right? So all of this happened when I was a senior in high school, and the person who embezzled the funds from my mom was actually her godfather. And she kept pouring more money into the business because she thought that, okay, the economy is going down, but I can invest more so that when it goes back up, I'll get the return on my investment. So she started to liquidate all of our assets, which included my education fund, since she saved up since I was 1 year old, right? So my senior year of high school, my education fund gets diluted, no money for college. And we moved from a 4-bedroom home to a 1-bedroom in somebody else's house. We slept in the same bed with all of our stuff surrounding us. We had storages full of furniture and whatever else. We had all of our possessions, and we couldn't afford to pay that either. So imagine moving from, that being in that situation, but also the relationship that my mom and I had wasn't strong because it was like she was working so much my whole life to provide all of these material things. And I was benefiting from that, but I didn't have a connection with her. And so then we get placed in a 1-bedroom together, and we spend way too much time because we have no money. We're broke and we're stressed. And so we're butting heads now because we both don't feel good. And at the time, my mom had inflammation in her intestines. She was, stress kills you from the inside out. I had to call the ambulance every week because she was having anxiety attacks and panic attacks. And so it was really hard. And I didn't know what I was going to do. I barely, made it out of high school. I asked my mom, why don't you get a job? And she was like, what job? She's like, why don't you go get a job? Right. And so I did. I went to go work for my father for $8 an hour at his restaurant. And he lives about an hour away without traffic. And with traffic, it's 2 or 3 hours. I would drive from 4 a.m. in the morning just to make it to school by 7. So it was hard. There were hard times for sure. And I saw that as a way to just kind of like remove myself from the situation so that I can allow my mom to rebuild herself and find I didn't know what to do. You know, I was 18 years old. I was like, hey, like, I don't know how I can be helpful. So I left to be helpful. And I lived with my dad for the first time in 18 years. And I worked for him 12 hours a day, 9 to 9 when I didn't have school. When I did have school, you know, I took some time off and went back to work to close the shop and all that stuff. I made $40 a day. And I knew my mom was struggling. So I would drive 40 miles to give her $20 of gas money and then drive back home and work the next day. And that was basically all my money, right? It took me $20 to get to her, gave her $20 for gas, drove back home. My tank was empty. And that car that my mom had bought me too, it was so crazy, man. Like, that car that she bought me, she had to sell her last piece of gold that she had, stored. And it was a $2,500 Acura Integra. It got stolen twice, broken into 3 times. I didn't have a radio. I used my BlackBerry for music every time I would drive. But at the time, it didn't seem that bad. You know, it was kind of like, well, this is life right now. And so that was the beginning. That was the beginning of my Shaklee journey. Even though I had not met Shaklee yet, it was the preparation for meeting this kind of opportunity and really taking it to what it has become today. Without the hardships and, you know, all those times that we went through together, we wouldn't be here right now. Because, you know, when you have everything, you think that you don't need anything, that you don't need God, that you don't need all these other things. And when my mom finally submitted herself to God when she lost everything. And the reason why is because, you know, she had nothing left. It was time. And she prayed for a business that would take her all around the world. She prayed for God's mission, and she prayed that she would have a companion whose heart is close to God. And you know, later on, I learned that when I left to go live with my father, I didn't really plan to share all of this with you guys, but I feel like this is where it's going now. But my mom had considered committing suicide because she didn't know what else to do. She had an insurance policy that was left that she thought that, you know, she felt bad for diluting my education fund, and that's how she thought she was going to provide for me. And I'm so happy that she didn't choose that path. Instead, she chose a path of resilience, and she chose a path that was close to God, and she chose a path of faith. And it led to a worldwide business, fulfillment, joy, connection with people. And so that's the reason why we're here. And so when I started Shaklee, though, I mean, I thought my mom could do anything. So she had found Shaklee on her own while I lived with my father. And when I came back to see her, she had completely changed. And I'm going to go back to this slide really quick, and then I'll show you what my mom looked like before and after. I grew up thinking that when you got old, you got sick, right? Leading causes of death: heart disease, cancer, stroke, diabetes. How many of you know someone who has any of these diseases? Right? Yeah, it's like, and look at the percentage that is preventable. Heart disease, cancer, stroke, and diabetes are 60 to 90% preventable through lifestyle and diet. And this isn't news to us, right? So the first part isn't news to us. The first part is that we know people are dying from heart disease every day. We know people are dying from cancer every day. And if they're not in the ground yet, they die 30 years before they get buried, because there's dialysis and there's this and there's that. And you're basically just maintaining your symptoms until you go. And it was a lifestyle that I saw to be true, that it was just like, when you got old, you got sick. And that's what I saw in my community. I'm Cambodian from here, but my mom's from Cambodia. And a lot of our community are uneducated in prevention and nutrition. And so it was normal for me to accept that this was a way of life. And so when I was reintroduced to my mother, who had in 18 months, I saw her maybe once every 3 months. And I was so tired when I saw her. I didn't pay attention to anything. I was not ready to hear anything that she had to say. But in 18 months, she had completely transformed her health, completely transformed my stepdad's health. And together they built a multi-million-dollar business in 18 months and broke all the records in North America, which was like, I knew my mom could do it, but it wasn't clicking yet, right? And so let's look at the obesity in America. 1 out of 3 people are obese or overweight, and you don't have to look at statistics to know that that's true. And now 2 out of 3, and now what I really want to pay attention to is the children that are suffering today. And so why is this happening, right? We have like all of the technology, all of the education, everything that we need in order to succeed. Why is it that we're stuck and becoming worse than our parents were? So this is actually our generation. If you're 20 something years old, our generation will be the first generation ever to die before their parents. Why is that? Think about that. And the reason why is because our food just isn't what it is anymore. I'm studying environmental sustainability, and my first day in class, my professor says, Tiff, not just Tiff, but everybody, but I thought she was talking to me. And she said, you're gonna wanna change the world after you take this course. And you're gonna feel like you can't, because there's it's just so deep how much we've affected the earth, how much we have damaged the planet, how much we have damaged ourselves and sabotaged ourselves, right? And so 90% of Americans are overfed and undernourished. And that's what leads to obesity, and that's what leads to heart disease, cancer, stroke, and diabetes. And so I don't play the blame game anymore. You know, if you are unhealthy, I don't see that as because you're lazy. A lot of people say, oh, it's because you're lazy and like you don't go to the gym or you don't do this and you don't do that. I mean, people really try. And that's what I have come to find, is that people really try to take care of themselves now because there's more awareness about it, but they just can't seem to find what works for them. And when I realized the mindset shift, and I started to meet people in Shaklee family who were 100 years old, who look 80, who were 80, who look 60, people aging in reverse, literally. I started to see a whole different world. And then I became passionate about bringing that kind of lifestyle to my community as a young person, but also in my Cambodian community that's super uneducated and dying from all these diseases that can be prevented. So can we go to the next slide, please? So that's why we're all here, right? It's because we want to live longer. We want to live, and it's not just longevity that's important, is that the advances made in medicine today allow us to live longer, but not necessarily live a better life. And that's what we're after. We're after a better and longer life. So here are some before and after pictures. There's my mom on the right-hand corner, the green. Before she was a green frog, now she's a green princess. She lost 28 pounds, which on her frame is a lot of weight, but she lost the right kind of weight. In the middle, we have Laura Evans, who actually used to work for Shaklee Corporation as the vice president of Shaklee. And she transformed using the products because people in corporate get free products. And so she was able to lose the right kind of weight. And then she would see us living our best life as independent contractors, independent partners of Shaklee. And she goes, why am I teaching them how to do that? But I myself can't spend time with my own family. And being in the corporate world is very different than how we get to live. So she, 3 years ago, quit at Shaklee Corporate and became a Shaklee Master Coordinator, matching her income of over $200,000 a year. But now she has the freedom, the time, the flexibility with her kids. She's able to go to graduations and not get interrupted, and all of these things that are important to her. And she's a really impressive lady. She's always been successful in the corporate world. She actually worked with J. Crew. I don't know if you've ever heard of J. Crew, but J. Crew, before it was even a company, when it was just a few pages of a business plan, she helped turn that company into what it is today. And then she got recruited by Disney to do the same thing. And then she got recruited by Princess House, which is a different multi-level marketing. And then she went on to work for the Direct Selling Association, which is our association to make sure that we keep the good companies in and the bad companies out. And so long history in corporate, but finally made the decision to live a fulfilled life, not just a life of money and having things and, material success. There's my auntie on the right-hand side, the most stubborn auntie ever. That was her 4-week transformation. She was a school teacher and has since quit teaching and has been Shaklee full-time. Her sole income is a Shaklee income. And there on the right hand corner is Peter Paul, my stepdad. He is a corporate lawyer and did a lot of research on Shaklee before he let my mom join. And so, you can see he lost over 100 pounds in 6 years. Now I think it's been 7 years, right, Peter Paul? Almost 7 years that he has been taking the products. Initially, in the first 2 years, how much did you lose? 80 pounds? 80 pounds in the first 2 years. He's been able to keep it off and is now at the 100 pounds lost. And there's my grandma on the left-hand side, who is the most important story that we have. This is the reason why we do what we do every day with so much passion and compassion, is because on the left-hand side, you see her before picture. That's after she had a stroke. And the doctor said she was going to be around for 6 more months. And now it's been 6 years since my grandma has been thriving and living. And, she's outlived her doctor. Her doctor actually just passed away last summer, which is really sad. But it really shows like what giving your body the right nutrients will help you do. So, yeah, this is amazing. Our whole family has transformed. And I think the transformation is the most important part, and everything else will follow, because without your health, you have nothing. And we've learned that over and over and over again. And I know you guys are really young still, and like you're my age, right? But like I was able to have those lessons early on, and I've realized that, without your health, you just have nothing. And as much as you try, like my passion and my purpose in life is to help you unblock like all of the blockages that you have in your body and in your life, so that you can live up to your fullest potential. Because I truly believe in people's born potential, that they can be great. But there's just so many blockages in your brain, there's blockages in your body, there's just all kinds of things. And so if I can help you unblock those things, you get to be who you are in your best form and live your best life, whatever that is. So if you don't choose Shaklee as a career, but you use it as a tool in order to help you, help you reach your goals, like that's good enough. That's really what it's about. So next slide, please. More before and afters. I won't go through all of these, but as you can see, these are all close friends and family members that we have. We have Jose on the right-hand corner in the bottom. He was a Zumba studio owner. What he did was he bought Zumba studios that were failing, and he flipped them to make them successful studios, and he used Shaklee as a way to do that. But as you can see on his face, he had vitiligo, which really hurt his confidence. It made him really insecure. He used to wear makeup in order to try to hide it. And so if you don't know about vitiligo, it's an autoimmune disease, and it's also worsened by stress. And so he also had lost everything prior to Shaklee and got really, really stressed. And, he only took Shaklee with the goal of becoming healthier and losing the right kind of weight and building muscle. But over a year's time, he started to see his skin pigmentation come back. So this picture has actually gone viral. People in Africa have been messaging him in all parts of the world to know what's been going on with him. And so he's been able to work with our science department in order to figure out like what exactly triggered the pigmentation to come back. And the overall consensus is that when your body gets what it needs and all those nutritional gaps are filled, your body will start to repair itself. Because the moment you die is the moment that your body starts regenerating, right? Regenerating new cells and all this good stuff. And so when your body stops recovering is when it starts to reverse and start to die. And his body just got what it needed and started to regenerate. So it's been amazing. And then we have on the left-hand side, she's turning 99, grandma, Brittany's grandma. She's turning 99, and her hair went from white to black. Amazing stories. Next slide, please. More transformations. I think you guys get the picture, right? Like very amazing transformations. And so we don't claim to cure anything. We just believe that your body gets the right nutrients, it will start to repair itself. And we don't think that Shaklee cures all, and we don't use it as a treatment. We use it as a source of prevention and food and a lifestyle. So you can go to the next slide. So where does that lead me? To continue my story, when I started Shaklee, my mom had found out that I got into Harvard, and I told her because I wanted her to pay for it. So I was like, hey mom, like, guess what, you know, like, and she was like, her reaction was, you know, you got yourself in, you get yourself out. And I was like, what? You're the worst Asian mom ever. Most Asian moms would sell their house and their kids and their cars to put one through college, right? And so I was pretty shocked. And I was shocked, and I was not happy, and I was kind of angry because I didn't see the vision at that time. But because my mom had already implanted that health comes first, this is the way that she wanted to teach this lesson. So I thought, man, my mom had lost everything, gained it all back. She's living the life. As you can see back here, these are all vacations that we've taken, paid by Shaklee here with our Shaklee family. And I thought, why won't she pay? This is, I don't get it. So she made a deal with me. She said, Tiff, if you start to do Shaklee, then I will help you pay for your first semester, and then you're on your own, right? I was like, all right, cool. So I went to school, I made the deal, but I was like, yeah, like whatever, you know, kind of thing. And then she had sent me $5,000 worth of products that I let sit in the corner, dusted. 6 months later, I came back from school, and before I could even walk through the door, my mom didn't even let me walk in. She pointed at me and she said, Tiff, if you don't get your act together, good luck paying for school next semester. Because when I had come back, I had gained weight, I had looked worse, I was stressed, I was highly caffeinated, and just lots of issues, couldn't go to the bathroom regularly, lots and lots of issues that I thought were just like normal things, but they weren't normal. And at the same time that I had gained more weight and I had looked worse and had felt worse, I looked at my mom, and she's transformed even more and was wearing my jeans that I couldn't fit since I was in the 6th grade, 00 Abercrombie and Fitch jeans. Now, I was like, Mom, are you wearing my jeans? And she's like, yeah, can you fit them? And I was like, no, I cannot fit them. So I was pretty impressed, but also I was threatened. My mom was like, hey, Tiff, like, if you don't get your act together, you know, I'm not paying for school anymore. You got to figure out how you're going to do it. And I said, okay, what do I have to do? So she said, well, start becoming healthier. So I started on a Shaklee 180 turnaround kit. And what that did was it helped me lose 12 pounds in 90 days. And I was pretty happy. And I started to bring people over to the house because they were asking me, you know, wow, Tiff, you look really good. Like, what have you been doing? You look different and stuff like that. And so although 12 pounds doesn't sound like a lot, it really makes a difference with Shaklee because our products have leucine amino acids to help you retain your muscle, lose the fat. It's perfectly low glycemic, means anybody can drink it, even a diabetic. And it's perfect food for diabetics, actually. And if you don't, you can help prevent that. And so with Shaklee, unlike other things that I've tried before, I only lost the right kind of weight. And what proved that was now it's been like, I think 5 years since I've been taking the products seriously, maybe the last 3 years. But I went from 128 and a size 8 when I started my journey. And now I'm 132 and a size 0 to 2. And so what that means is that muscle weighs more than fat, and fat takes up more space. So I lost the right kind of weight, and I actually gained more in weight. And so if you're on a health journey right now, you know, at Shaklee, we really don't recommend to pay a lot of attention to the scale because it's not accurate. We want to do like BMIs or based on how you feel, your pant size, you know, just like really how you feel. My skin started to change. I had really bad eczema, bad acne, and I thought eczema was just like a thing that I was born with, but it really is just lacking of protein, minerals, nutrients. And so my skin started to change. My face started to change. As you can see here, we got our new youth line. You know, so every product category, whether it's healthy weight, healthy beauty, healthy home, sports nutrition, healthy foundations, Shaklee covers it all. This is some of my pictures over the last few years at Shaklee events and conferences. I had the privilege to close last year's conference. I think over 4,000 people were there. And, you know, it's not to be impressive, but it's to say, look at that picture in the middle with all the Shaklee family in the background. So those people have a heritage with Shaklee for over 40 or 50 years. Shaklee's been around for since 1956, over 63 years. And so these people, they come in and they come to stay. And so I basically started my young adult life with a community who's focused on helping other people and focused on prevention and focused in natural health. And so that really changed my worldview on things. And so the reason why you can see me on stage up there is that I'm really grateful. I'm thanking all of my Shaklee family for what they have been able to do. So next slide, please. So now I started my Shaklee journey, right? And I started to do a little research, and I had all these concerns because I didn't want to do it. That's why I had these concerns. Like, I don't want to do it so that I can become successful. And that's what I thought, right? And so I just kind of played the game with her. I was like, I wanted to show her I was doing something, and I liked the products, but I wasn't that serious. And so I just kind of did it part-time. I made $1,000 a month eventually, and that helped me pay for some of my expenses. And then I made like $1,500 a month as my customer base started to grow. As I started doing a little bit more, I earned some trips. Every year when there was a final exam coming up, for some reason, Shaklee Dream Trips were always a week before finals. So then I would actually like study for my finals before on a cruise or in the beach or in Maui or something like that. And so I kind of started my journey slowly, and I don't recommend for you guys to do this because you can learn from all of my mistakes that I made. But I had to see it for myself that this was something that I could do. And a huge reason of why I made a decision was based on the leadership that we have and the heritage that we have. So I had these concerns, like, is it, you know, like, I don't want to do multi-level marketing. Like, I don't want to be in network marketing because it's not like a sexy, you know, profession that like people don't grow up wanting to be like a master recruiter in network marketing. And so all these things. And I thought that going the traditional route, especially being at Harvard, that there needed to be some prestige to what I do. And like all these things that are like kind of egotistical, like standard, like thoughts that I had. And I started to break those down time after time because I saw the impacts that were being made by my mom and her team. And my mom was growing super fast, and the differentiator was her passion really to transform every single person that she walks by or that comes to our house and sits on our couch. Like, this is our couch over here. That couch has been through a lot. People have come here at 6 p.m. and left at 6 a.m. because they need someone to, like, you know, listen to them and care about them and also give them the tools that they need. So So anyway, I started my Shaklee business. A year went by. I'm making $1,500 to $2,000 a month, going on trips. My car, I get a car bonus. I didn't have a car, so they paid me anyway. And I took the train, right? Cost me a couple dollars to take the train, but I got like a $350 car bonus. And so I found a few people who like wanted to be customers, and then through those few people, because they transformed, wanted to be more customers. And it was a very mediocre kind of interest level. Did it because I had to kind of thing. And though a year goes by and all of my friends who were older than me had graduated. They graduated into some debt. And even if they weren't at my school, they were, you know, in other schools that around the world. And they graduated just like excited. And then 3 months later, no job. And then, you know, another 3 months later, moving back home with their parents. And those are not bad things, right? Those aren't like really terrible things. It's just that to them, it wasn't something that they wanted to do. And I saw my peers become really lost and depressed and a lot of anxiety surrounding their everyday life. And here I was just kind of like, yeah, I'm sitting on this golden egg, like this idea, this concept that through my own transformation, through my sharing of my own story, helping other people transform, build their own story, and then just continuing that forever and ever and ever, that I get to make some sort of an impact, but I also get to sustain my own life, right? And so I started to see the value in that. And that's when I made a decision, because I go, I don't want to end up that way. Like graduating from Harvard and still being lost and confused, like that doesn't work with me. Being $100,000 in debt, that doesn't sound right. So I made a decision, not just for myself, but for my peers, that I was not going to graduate until I made a six-figure income, a multiple six-figure income, and became a master coordinator in Shaklee, to set an example and to show people that you don't need to do things the traditional way in order to become successful. And if you want to, that's great, but at least have something that will help support you in that. And so I was studying sustainability, and my mom would be in Kenya, Africa, planting trees with Shaklee. And I was studying about sustainability in books. And I was like, there's a disconnect here, that like, she's out there doing things and I'm in here studying about them. And so when I realized that we can make an impact on each other, starting from little steps that lead to a huge effect, that's when I jumped in, all in. And then, you know, Dr. Shaklee, his philosophy is living in harmony with nature. And I start to understand that more and more and more. And he says, it doesn't matter about the dollars and cents. It's about humanitarian work every day. And that's our philosophy. And then we have, of course, Roger Barnett, who graduated from Harvard and Yale. His lineage comes from Burberry, Equifax, Beauty.com, Walgreens, Rolex, all kinds of amazing companies that have gone from being okay to being the best. But he's now investing his life in Shaklee. He's planning to pass it down to his kids. And what he taught me was that making small impacts every day and giving the ability to people to make their own decisions based on their own passions, based on their own purposes, it's what's going to change the world. And so in that philosophy is where I fell in love, and he works harder than anybody that I know out there. And so I just focus on that. If you know, people come up to me and they think that I'm just going to sell them something, and I don't. Like, I really am very picky now about who I am partnered up with, how many people I spend time with. I want to see that person has the passion to change. And if they haven't yet, they need to open up that capacity, because a lot of the times when you don't have a bigger vision, it's because there's so many things that are immediate to you that you have to learn how to survive first before you can think about anything else. Being, you know, the survival, and then there's success, and there's significance. That, like, most people start at survival, they want to aim for success, they get to success, and they go, what else is there? I have everything, now what? And then they strive for significance. But we turn that the other way. We want significant first, what will lead to success, and then surviving is automatic. So anyway, I think that is the 30 or 40 minutes that Joe had asked me to to talk about. And I want to thank you for taking your time to be here, especially with the team that you're with right now. Tyler and Joe are really killing it. They are setting great examples, and I can't wait to see what transformations you guys make. Thank you.
Thanks, Deb.